Imagine, just for a moment. The year is 1933. You are standing on a street in Berlin. Around you, millions of people screaming, all of them staring at one man, a man who just a few years earlier nobody had ever heard of. What did this man have that convinced millions to follow him? What was going through his mind? What dots did he carry that he never spoke aloud in public? Today, we go somewhere most people have never gone. Not his famous speeches, not the archive footage everyone has seen. We go inside the secret documents, the private notes, the conversations he fought no one would ever hear, and the last will and testament he dictated in the final hours of his life.
After World War II ended in 1945, the Allied forces uncovered an enormous collection of documents. Some of them were classified for decades. Some were locked in government archives in America, Britain, and Russia until very recently. What do these documents contain? Personal notes from his early years, letters he wrote to those closest to him, confidential records from private Nazi Party meetings, and most importantly, conversations secretly recorded by SS officers, conversations Hitler believed no one would ever hear. When we place these documents side by side, a picture emerges that is completely different from anything official history has shown us. What did he actually believe? This is a question historians, psychiatrists, and researchers have wrestled with for decades, because the answer matters, not just for understanding the past, but for understanding how a society can reach this point and how it can be prevented. World War II claimed more than 70 million lives. The Holocaust took 6 million Jewish lives and millions more. This catastrophe began inside one person's mind, and today we want to understand how that mind worked. In this documentary, we make a journey from beginning to end, from a young Austrian boy in the small town of Braunau to his final hours in a bunker beneath Berlin. At every stage, secret documents reveal what was truly in his mind.
Before we begin, one important note. This documentary takes a historical and analytical perspective. Our aim is not to glorify, not to defend, but to understand. Because history is only useful when we look at it honestly. Let us go to the documents.
April 20, 1889. A small Austrian town. An ordinary family. A child is born, and they name him Adolf. No one knows that this child, 56 years later, will change the history of the world. His father, Adolf Hitler, was a customs officer, a strict, rigid, and sometimes violent man. His mother, Clara, the opposite, warm, devoted, and deeply in love with her son. These two contrasting personalities left the first marks on young Adolf. But before we look at his childhood, one important question. How do we know what happened inside that home? The answer is simple. Documents. Letters that Hitler himself wrote in later years. Memoirs of people who lived with him. And reports compiled by American psychiatrists during the war. Reports that remained classified for decades. Relationship with his father. Alois Hitler had been married 3 times. From his third wife, Clara, he had 6 children, 4 of whom died in childhood. Adolf and his sister Paula survived. In his later documents, Hitler speaks very little about his father, and when he does, the tone is cold, detached. An American historian named Walter Langer wrote a classified psychological report on Hitler in 1943, in the middle of the war, for the OSS, the precursor to the CIA. That report remained classified until 1972. Langer writes in this report that Adolf's relationship with his father was filled with tension. Alois wanted his son to become a government official like himself. Adolf wanted to be an artist. This conflict continued for years. It is interesting to look at Hitler's paintings from that era. The buildings are precise, the streets have detail, but there are no people. Almost none of his paintings include human figures. Psychologists later saw this as a sign of something deeper, an inability to connect with other human beings.
1907. Adolf Hitler is 18 years old. He comes to Vienna with a dream of becoming an artist, but the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna rejects him twice. They tell him he lacks sufficient talent. This rejection is a serious blow, but worse is coming. That same year, his mother Clara is diagnosed with breast cancer. Hitler returns to be with her. He cares for her for months, and in December 1907, Clara dies. The family's Jewish doctor, Dr. Eduard Bloch, later wrote that he had never seen a young man grieve so deeply. Hitler sat beside his mother's body for hours. He sketched her. This was the last time anyone would ever see Hitler cry. This detail is important. Dr. Bloch was Jewish, and Hitler respected him until the end of his life. Later, when the Nazis occupied Austria, Hitler personally ordered that Dr. Bloch be protected and allowed to immigrate. This contradiction, universal hatred alongside personal exceptions, is one of the most complex aspects of Hitler's character.
After his mother's death, Hitler returns to Vienna, this time not as an art student, but as a penniless young man with no direction. He spends the years 1908 to 1913 in Vienna. He later calls these, in Mein Kampf, the bitterest years of my life. In Vienna, Hitler survives by painting postcards of famous city buildings and selling them. Some days he goes hungry. He sleeps in cheap boarding houses. He shares the company of people on the margins of society. Vienna at that time is a fully multicultural city. Czechs, Hungarians, Poles, Jews, Croatians, all living side by side. For a young Austrian nationalist like Hitler, this diversity is unsettling. But here is an important question. Was Hitler anti-Semitic from the very beginning? The answer from the documents is complex. In his earliest letters from Vienna, Hitler does not speak of Jews as enemies. Some of the buyers of his paintings were Jewish, and he dealt with them normally. But something was gradually changing. Vienna at that time is saturated with anti-Semitic newspapers and books. The mayor of Vienna, Karl Lueger, is a famous anti-Semitic politician whom Hitler later praises. Inside this environment, Hitler slowly absorbs anti-Semitic ideology.
Hitler writes in Mein Kampf that the first time he saw an Orthodox Jew in a traditional kaftan on the streets of Vienna, he underwent an intellectual transformation. But historians say this account is almost certainly oversimplified. The evidence suggests Hitler's anti-Semitism was gradual, not a sudden moment of revelation. 1913. Hitler moves from Austria to Munich, Germany. A year later, World War I begins, and Hitler, unlike many, is genuinely glad. We have an interesting document. Hitler writes to the Bavarian authorities and volunteers for service. He wants to fight for Germany, not Austria. This detail matters. Hitler sees himself as German, not Austrian. Hitler spends 4 years in the war, a foot messenger on the front line. Dangerous work. He is wounded twice. Once, poison gas temporarily blinds him. He receives a medal for bravery. But one thing is striking. His fellow soldiers later said Hitler was a strange man. In the trenches, he would debate politics. He would sketch. He would read. But he had no close friends. He never spoke of home or family. November 1918, Germany surrenders. Hitler is in a hospital, recovering from the effects of the poison gas. He hears the news of defeat there. He later writes that he wept. He writes that he had not cried since his mother's death. But that night, in the hospital, he buried his face in his pillow and sobbed. And then, in his own telling, he made a decision. He writes, "I decided to become a politician." That sentence must be taken seriously, because from that moment, everything changed.
November 1923, Munich. Hitler and the Nazi Party attempt an armed coup to overthrow the German government. They fail. Hitler is arrested. He is sent to Landsberg prison. His sentence is 9 months, reduced from 5 years. But for Hitler, this prison is an opportunity to write, to think, to turn his scattered ideas into a coherent ideology. The result is Mein Kampf, My Struggle, a book that millions bought, but that very few people actually read, and that even fewer truly understood. Mein Kampf was published in 2 volumes.
The first in 1925, the second in 1926. In it, Hitler writes his autobiography. He explains his ideology, and he lays out his plans for Germany. The book is saturated with explicit racism, anti-Semitism, and expansionist ambitions. Hitler writes openly that Germany must expand eastward, that the Aryan race is superior, that Jews are Germany's fundamental enemy. Interestingly, the book was not a bestseller at first. By 1933, when Hitler came to power, only around 280,000 copies had been sold. But after 1933, sales exploded. By the end of the war, more than 12 million copies had been distributed. The Nazi government gave the book as a wedding gift to German couples. Every German soldier received a copy. Every household was expected to own one. But historians estimate that the majority of Germans never actually read it. They simply possessed it. But there is something that very few people have paid attention to. Mein Kampf has 2 layers: a surface layer, written for the general public, and a hidden layer, which, when compared against other documents, reveals a far more alarming picture. For example, in the book, Hitler speaks of solving the Jewish question, but never explicitly states how. Historians have debated for decades whether Hitler planned genocide from the very beginning. Would follow him, so he learned what to say and what to withhold. But there is a document that most people know nothing about, a second book. In 1928, Hitler wrote another book, one that was never published in his lifetime. This book, later called the Zweites Buch, or Second Book, was discovered by American forces in Berlin in 1945. It was held in the United States National Archives for years. It was not published until 1961. Why did Hitler never publish it? Researchers say because it was too direct, too candid. He had written things that could damage German foreign policy. For instance, he wrote explicitly that Germany must ally with England and fight France and Russia. But more significantly, in the second book, Hitler writes about America. He argues that America is a great and rising power, and he writes that Germany must act before America becomes too strong. This strategic analysis is a very different image from the emotional fanatic most people imagine. American historian Gerhard Weinberg, the first person to edit and publish this book, argues it shows Hitler was a cold, calculating strategist, not merely an angry fanatic. That distinction matters. Now we arrive at one of the most valuable sources for understanding Hitler's mind, a source that very few people know about. It is called the Table Talks, or in German, Tischgespräche. Here is how it came about.
From 1941 to 1944, one of Hitler's associates, Heinrich Heim, was assigned to secretly take notes on Hitler's late-night conversations with those around him. Hitler would typically talk until 3 or 4 in the morning with assistants, generals, and friends. These conversations cover hundreds of hours. They range across everything: art and architecture, religion and science, politics and personal memory. This is where we see the real Hitler, not the Hitler of speeches and propaganda. A few examples of what he said in these conversations. On religion, in his public speeches, Hitler spoke of God. But in the table talks, he says Christianity is a weak religion, incompatible with the German spirit. He says it should be set aside after the war. On science, in these conversations, Hitler reveals a genuine interest in science and technology. He speaks of rockets, of future aircraft, of nuclear energy, still in its earliest stages at that point. On America, in one conversation in 1941, Hitler says America is making a mistake by entering the war. He says Americans are decent people, but their leaders are.
Place that remark alongside the fact that just months later, he declared war on the United States. One important note: some historians question the accuracy of certain sections of the table talks. The English translation published in the 1950s contains inaccuracies in some places, so it must be used with care. But the original German version is considered reliable by most serious historians. In 1943, while the war was still being fought, the American Intelligence Agency, OSS, launched a classified project. Its goal: understand how Hitler thinks, so they could predict what he would do next. The man in charge was a psychiatrist named Walter Langer. Langer interviewed hundreds of people who had known Hitler personally: childhood neighbors from Vienna, fellow soldiers from World War I, politicians who had negotiated with him. The result was a 135-page report entitled The Mind
of Adolf Hitler. This report remained completely classified until 1972. When it was published, it became one of the most important psychological documents ever written about him. What does Langer conclude in this report? Several key points. First, Hitler has a narcissistic personality. He sees himself as an exceptional being, chosen by history. This belief in himself, even in the worst moments, never wavered. Second, Hitler fears failure, not for Germany's sake, but for his own. Langer predicts that if the war goes badly, Hitler will most likely take his own life. That prediction proved correct 2 years later. Third, Hitler is a skilled performer. He knows exactly when to appear angry, when to seem
calm, when to weep. Much of the behavior people assumed was spontaneous was, in fact, calculated in advance. There is another category of documents that rarely gets attention: financial records, documents that reveal how Hitler funded his grand ambitions. A common misconception is that Hitler was an idealist for whom money was irrelevant. The documents say otherwise. Hitler was a shrewd financial operator. He concealed his book royalties from taxation. He accepted bribes from major German corporations, and he had constructed an elaborate system for funding the party. One telling example: Hitler collected royalties from his image appearing on German postage stamps. Every time a letter was sent in Germany, a small amount went into Hitler's account. Multiplied by millions of letters per day, it became a considerable income. We know this from the financial records discovered after the war.
So, in this chapter, what have we found? Mein Kampf is only one piece of the puzzle. A second book that was never published. Nightly conversations he believed no one was recording. Classified psychological reports, and financial documents that reveal a Hitler completely unlike his public image. But one question remains unanswered. When Hitler came to power, when all of Germany was in his hands, what was going through his mind? How were his real decisions made? And how did he lead an entire nation toward catastrophe? The answers are in the next chapter, a chapter where we enter the years of power and the classified documents that show how Hitler thought and decided at the height of his authority.
January 30, 1933, Berlin. A cold night. But thousands of people are in the streets, holding torches, shouting. Because today, something has happened that almost no one believed possible. Adolf Hitler, the son of an Austrian customs official, has become Chancellor of Germany. Hitler stands at the window of the chancellery and looks down at the crowd. One of his associates later wrote that Hitler was silent that night. He simply watched. And there was a small smile at the corner of his mouth. But what was going through his mind? From this point on, we have more documents, because Hitler is now the leader of a country. His meetings are recorded, his letters are archived, and those around him are writing memoirs. One interesting thing about Hitler's early days in power is that many people believed they could control him. Franz von Papen, the conservative politician who played a key role in Hitler's appointment, told friends, "We have hired Hitler. Within 2 months, we will have pushed him into a corner where he can't move." This was one of history's great miscalculations, because Hitler, from his very first day, moved with a speed no one anticipated to consolidate his power. February 27, 1933. The German parliament, the Reichstag, catches fire. Hitler immediately blames communists, and he uses this event as justification for suspending civil liberties. Here is the key document, the emergency decree Hitler signed the day after the fire. This decree gave police the authority to arrest anyone without a court order, to shut down newspapers, to ban public meetings. All of this within 24 hours. Historians still debate whether Hitler himself arranged the fire. No definitive document has been found. But one thing is clear. Hitler exploited this opportunity with maximum speed and precision, which tells us he was prepared. He was waiting for a pretext.
March 23, 1933. 1 month and a half after Hitler comes to power. The German parliament convenes. They are about to vote on a law that, if passed, would transfer all legislative authority from parliament directly to Hitler. The session takes place in an opera house because the Reichstag has burned. But there is something notable. Around the hall, armed SS troops are positioned. Representatives entering the building can see them. The message is unmistakable. The law passes. The only party to oppose it is the Social Democrats.
Their leader, Otto Wels, delivers a courageous speech. Hitler replies, "I no longer need your votes." That sentence must be read alongside documents from the same period. Because in private notes from those very days, Hitler wrote, "Democracy was the tool that brought us to power. We no longer need it." That sentence was never spoken publicly, but it was recorded in internal documents. 1 year after coming to power, Hitler faces a problem. Ernst Röhm, the leader of the SA, the Nazi paramilitary force, has become too powerful. Röhm wants to transform the SA into Germany's primary army. The regular military generals are unhappy. Hitler must choose. Röhm is one of Hitler's oldest friends, from the earliest days in Munich. But Hitler decides that Röhm must be eliminated. June 30, 1934, the night of the long knives. Over the course of a single night, the SS, on Hitler's direct orders, kills Röhm and dozens of others. No trial, no court, simply execution. A particularly significant document exists that very few people have seen. A handwritten list, in Hitler's own handwriting. A list of those who were to be killed, with marks beside names. This document was discovered in the archives after the war. A simple piece of paper, but it shows that Hitler decided personally. who would live, and who would die. Interesting, too, is the German public's reaction. Many people were relieved. They believed Hitler had restored order. German newspapers, by now under tight control, wrote that Hitler had saved Germany from a conspiracy. The public believed it.
September 1935, Nuremberg, the Nazi Party's annual rally. Hundreds of thousands gathered, and at this rally, Hitler makes an announcement that changes history. The Nuremberg Laws. These laws strip Jews of German citizenship. They banned marriage between Jews and non-Jews, and they began the legal process of defining what it meant to be Jewish, a complicated task. But here is an interesting document that shows how these laws were actually written. Nazi bureaucracy spent hours debating who exactly qualified as Jewish. One full Jewish parent? Half Jewish? One quarter? These bureaucratic discussions about the fate of human beings were recorded with cold administrative precision. The German Jewish philosopher Hannah Arendt later called this phenomenon the banality of evil. She argued that great evil does not necessarily come from madmen and monsters. It often comes from ordinary people simply doing their jobs. These bureaucratic documents are the clearest possible illustration of that idea. One of the most important documents discovered after the war is the protocol of a meeting in November 1937. This meeting is known as the Hossbach Conference, named after the officer who transcribed it. In this meeting, Hitler sits with his senior generals and his foreign minister, and he says something that shocks everyone in the room. He says Germany must begin its wars no later than 1937 or 1945, because after that point, Germany will no longer be stronger than its enemies. Some of the generals objected. They believed Germany was not yet ready for a major war. Hitler removed those dissenting generals within months and replaced them with more obedient men. This is an important pattern visible throughout the documents. Every time someone disagreed with Hitler, every time someone said, "This is dangerous," that person was removed, and someone who only said yes was put in their place. The result was that Hitler, throughout the war, lived inside a bubble where no one dared tell him the truth. November 9, 1938, a German diplomat in Paris is killed by a young Jewish man. Hitler uses this event as a pretext. In the course of a single night, across all of Germany, SA and SS groups attack Jewish-owned shops, homes, and synagogues. More than 1,000 synagogues burn, thousands of shops are destroyed, dozens of people are killed, 30,000 are arrested. A critically important set of documents exists for this event, telegrams exchanged between SS officials during that night. These telegrams show that what happened was not spontaneous at all. It was planned in advance, coordinated, and ordered from above. One famous telegram from Reinhard Heydrich, a senior SS official, was sent in the middle of that night. It contains precise operational instructions, which locations were to be destroyed, who was to be arrested, and crucially, who must not be harmed, meaning non-Jewish property must be left alone. The international reaction? Verbal condemnation, but no concrete action. America recalled its ambassador from Berlin, but did not sever diplomatic relations. Britain protested, but Neville Chamberlain was still hoping for peace with Hitler. And Hitler drew a conclusion from this silence. He could go further. September 1938, Munich. The leaders of 4 countries sit together: Britain, France, Italy, Germany. The issue: can Hitler annex the Sudetenland, the part of Czechoslovakia with a German-speaking population? Britain and France agree. Chamberlain flies back to London and holds up a piece of paper. He says he has secured peace for our time. The crowds celebrate. But we have a document that reveals what Hitler actually thought. After signing the Munich Agreement, Hitler told those close to him, and this is recorded in the notes of his associates, "These old fools think they've satisfied me. They are wrong." 6 months later, Germany occupied all of Czechoslovakia, not just the Sudetenland. This proved that Hitler had never intended to honor the Munich Agreement. It had been a performance from the start. September 1, 1939, 4:45 in the morning. German forces cross the Polish border. World War II has begun. Hitler addresses Parliament. He says Poland attacked Germany. This is a plain lie.
But we have more interesting documents to examine. Operation Gleiwitz. This was a false flag operation. The SS staged a fake Polish attack on a German radio station near the Polish border. They even placed the corpse of a German prisoner dressed in Polish uniform at the scene to provide evidence. Documents from this operation were found in SS archives after the war. This document matters because it shows Hitler knew he was lying. He knew Poland had not attacked, but he needed a pretext, and he planned that pretext with care and precision.
June 22nd, 1941. 3 million German soldiers crossed the Soviet border. The largest military operation in the history of humanity has begun. Operation Barbarossa. The planning documents for this operation show that Hitler had decided on it long in advance. In the table talks, in letters, in private meetings, he spoke repeatedly of attacking the Soviet Union. For him, this was not merely a military campaign, it was ideology, living space for Germany, the destruction of communism, and a confrontation with the Jewish populations of Eastern Europe. One document in particular is crucial: the Commissar Order. This directive told the German army that Soviet political officers, rather than being taken prisoner, were to be executed immediately. This was a flagrant violation of the laws of war. It was issued under official signature, and it shows that Hitler understood from the outset that this war was different. This was a war of annihilation.
January 1945. Berlin is no longer the grand city Hitler envisioned as the capital of a 1,000-year empire. Buildings are ruins. Streets are covered in rubble. People are starving. And from 2 directions, Allied armies are closing in. From the west, America and Britain. From the east, the Soviet Union. Hitler has been living in the bunker for some time now, a concrete structure beneath the courtyard of the Reich Chancellery in Berlin. 8 meters below ground, with air ventilation, small rooms, and a world completely cut off from the reality above. This bunker, later known as the Führer bunker, is the setting for the final chapter of Hitler's life. And the documents we have from this period may be the most extraordinary of this entire documentary. We are witnessing the collapse of a person, not just a regime. One of the most important sources for understanding Hitler in this period is the memoir of Traudl Junge. Junge had been Hitler's personal secretary since 1943. She remained in the bunker until the very last moment, and after the war, she wrote her memoirs. Junge writes that in the bunker, Hitler was a completely different man from his public image. Exhausted, aged, his hands trembled, his walk had slowed. But one thing had not changed: his certainty. He still believed a miracle was coming. The last known photographs of Hitler are from March 1945. In the Chancellery courtyard, he is handing out medals to boy soldiers, children Germany had sent to defend Berlin. In these photographs, Hitler appears stooped, old, and tired, but he is still giving out medals, still performing his role. There is an important category of documents: Hitler's medical records. Dr. Theodor Morell, Hitler's personal physician, had kept meticulous notes on Hitler's health for years. These notes were discovered after the war. These documents reveal that in the final years of the war, Hitler was taking dozens of different medications daily: painkillers, amphetamines, heart medications, hormones. Historians debate whether these drugs affected Hitler's decision-making.
We have no definitive answer, but that Hitler was physically a sick man in the war's final year is absolutely clear from these records.
Before we move to the final months, we must speak of an important event that occurred in July 1944, an event that, had it succeeded, might have changed history. Klaus von Stauffenberg, a senior German army officer, he had lost one hand in North Africa, and he had made a decision. Hitler must be killed. July 20, 1944. Stauffenberg attends a meeting with Hitler. He leaves a briefcase under the conference table. Inside it, a bomb. He leaves the room. The bomb explodes. Hitler survived. A minor accident had intervened. Someone had unknowingly moved the briefcase behind a thick table leg. That leg deflected the blast away from Hitler. Hitler emerged from the rubble with a ruptured eardrum, singed hair, and bruises.
We have a historical photograph. That same afternoon, Mussolini arrived for a pre-planned visit. Hitler and Mussolini stand together, Hitler in torn clothing with a bandaged hand, but standing, demonstrating, "I am alive." In the days and weeks that followed, the SS arrested 5,000 people. 200 were executed. The interrogation documents from these individuals reveal a striking picture of how widespread opposition to Hitler actually was inside the German military. Many people could see that Germany was heading toward catastrophe, but the system of fear prevented anyone from speaking plainly. Hitler gave a radio address that same night. His voice trembled, but his message was clear. God saved me because I must complete my mission. This belief that a divine power was protecting him appears repeatedly in the table talks, and after this failed assassination, it grew stronger than ever.
In the final months of the war, daily military meetings were held in the bunker. Generals reported. Hitler issued orders, but there was a critical problem. Hitler was moving armies on the map that no longer existed. Senior officers later said that Hitler would move military units around on maps and order attacks, but these units had either been destroyed or simply never existed. When generals tried to communicate the reality, Hitler became furious. He accused them of treachery. He said they were too weak. General Heinz Guderian, one of Germany's finest armored commanders, writes in his memoirs that by the end of the war, military meetings with Hitler had become nightmares. Hitler would talk for hours. He allowed no one to disagree, and anyone who told the truth was thrown out of the room. A document exists, March 1945. Hitler relieves Guderian of his command. The official reason, health. The real reason, clear from the documents. Guderian had shouted at Hitler in a meeting. He had said the situation on the Eastern Front was catastrophic. Hitler could not tolerate hearing the truth.
March 19, 1945. Hitler issues an order that later becomes known as the Nero Decree. This is one of the most disturbing documents in this documentary. The decree orders all of Germany's infrastructure must be destroyed. Bridges, roads, factories, power plants, mines, railways. Everything that could possibly fall into enemy hands must be demolished before they arrive. Albert Speer, Hitler's Minister of Armaments and one of the few people who dared to disagree, told Hitler this decree meant the complete annihilation of Germany. The German people would die of cold and starvation in the coming winter. Hitler replied. Hitler said, "If we lose the war, the German nation must be destroyed as well. This is their inescapable fate. Those who are too weak to survive have no right to continue living." This sentence is recorded in Speer's memoirs, and it is one of the most chilling things Hitler ever said. Speer ignored the order. He quietly told local commanders not to carry it out. Later, at the Nuremberg trials, this act of defiance was one of the reasons he was spared the death sentence. But the Nero Decree reveals something critical.
Hitler never wanted Germany for Germany's sake. He wanted Germany for his ideology. When he understood that ideology had been defeated, Germany itself no longer mattered to him. This, more than anything else in these documents,
April 28, 1945, 2 days before Hitler's death. In the bunker, a strange ceremony takes place. Hitler and Eva Braun, his companion of many years, are married. The marriage certificate still exists, a simple piece of paper with Hitler's signature and Eva Braun's signature, where she began to write Braun, then crossed it out and wrote Hitler. These small details are among the most human moments in all these documents. Junge writes that after the ceremony, there was a small gathering, champagne, talk of old times. Hitler spoke of Munich, of the early years, as if he were saying goodbye, not to life, but to his past.
That same night, Hitler dictated his will to Junge. This will has 2 parts, a personal section and a political section. Both are extraordinarily important documents. In the personal will, Hitler leaves his possessions to the Nazi Party. He writes that anything of artistic value should go to a museum he had planned to build in Linz, Austria. Even in the final hours, he is speaking of a museum, speaking of art, as if he is still that young man who wanted to be a painter. The political will is more significant. Hitler writes that Jews started the war, that he never wanted war, that Germany was defeated because of betrayal from within. There is no remorse, no doubt, no apology. The final sentence of his political will, and this must be heard carefully, reads, "I call upon the leaders of the nation and their followers to uphold the racial laws meticulously and to resist mercilessly the poisoner of all nations, international Jewry." Hitler's final political sentence. He had not changed at all, not until the very last moment.
Still and understated. No theatrical buildup. Just the quiet end of something terrible. April 30th, 1945. Soviet forces have reached within a few hundred meters of the bunker. Gunfire is audible. Hitler has known since morning that this is his last day. Junge writes that Hitler said farewell to the bunker staff in the morning. He shook each person's hand. He said nothing. He only looked at them. Some wept. Hitler did not.
In the afternoon, Hitler and Eva Braun went to Hitler's private room. The door closed. A few minutes later, a single shot was heard. When the door was opened, both were dead. Eva Braun had taken cyanide. Hitler had taken cyanide and also shot himself in the head. Their bodies were carried to the Chancellery courtyard and burned with petrol on Hitler's prior instructions. In 2018, a French research team managed to negotiate access to samples from the teeth held in Russian archives, teeth claimed to be Hitler's. The results showed the teeth matched the descriptions given by Hitler's dentist. This is the final scientific document confirming Hitler's death in the bunker.
Today, where the Führer bunker once stood, there is an ordinary parking lot. A small information sign marks what once existed there. No grand memorial. Germany has deliberately left this place unremarkable, so it does not become a site of pilgrimage. But one thing that cannot be hidden is the documents. Documents that show how this man thought, how he made decisions, and how he led an entire nation toward catastrophe. Those documents have survived, and they still teach. In the last chapter of this documentary, we turn to the most important question of all. What do all these lessons mean for today? What signs should put us?
Berlin, 80 years after that bunker. The same city, completely transformed. Cafes, museums, young people laughing, life moving forward, as if none of it ever happened. But if you walk a little further, you come to the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. 2,711 concrete slabs in the heart of the city, a place thousands of people pass every single day. Germany built this so it would not forget, so others would not forget either. And now, one question. Why
Did we make this documentary? Not to glorify, not simply to recount history, but to understand, because understanding is the first step toward prevention. The first great lesson from these documents is this: democracy is fragile, far more fragile than we think. The Weimar Republic had an advanced constitution, women's suffrage, freedom of the press, civil rights, a genuine democracy. But within 14 years, that democracy had become a dictatorship. How? Historian Robert Paxton, one of the world's leading scholars of fascism, has identified a pattern. He argues that democracies rarely die through military coups. They die through elections, through laws they pass themselves, through politicians who believe they can make deals with the future dictator. Von Papen, who said Hitler had been hired, is the symbol of this error. Conservative German politicians believed they were smart enough to control Hitler. They were wrong. This pattern is not unique to Germany. Throughout history, politicians who believed they could control a dangerous demagogue have been proven wrong, almost every single time. That is our first lesson. So what are the warning signs? From documents and historical scholarship, several common signals emerge. A leader who claims to be the nation's only possible savior. A leader who calls the independent press the enemy of the people. A leader who circumvents laws while maintaining a legal appearance. And a leader who defines an internal enemy as responsible for all national problems.
The second lesson is about propaganda. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, was one of the most skilled information manipulators in history. His daily diaries, discovered after the war, serve as a textbook in persuasion techniques. In these diaries, Goebbels outlines several core principles. First, keep the message simple. People do not have the time or patience for complex messages. Second, repeat. A lie repeated 1,000 times becomes believed. Third, emotion. Logic does not persuade. Emotion persuades. One concrete example, the film Triumph of the Will, made by Leni Riefenstahl in 1935. The film documented the Nuremberg Rally, but it was not a straightforward documentary. It was a complex artistic work that presented Hitler as a near-divine figure. Film schools still study this film today, not for its content, but for its technique. The Nazis exploited the technology of their era to the fullest. Radio was the newest mass medium. The Nazis produced cheap radios, the Volksempfänger, or People's Receiver, so that every German could hear Hitler's speeches. By 1939, 50 million Germans owned radios. Now, pause for a moment. Compare that radio to the internet today, to social media, to the algorithms that decide what content we see. The speed at which false information spreads today is thousands of times faster than 1930s radio. We raise this comparison not to frighten, but to make us more alert. Research from MIT has shown that false information spreads 6 times faster on social media than accurate information. Because false information is usually more dramatic, simpler, and more emotionally charged, exactly what Goebbels had written in his notes 80 years ago.
The third lesson is perhaps the hardest. It is about silence, about what happens when injustice occurs and we say nothing. A question historians have wrestled with for decades. How much did ordinary Germans know? The answer from the documents is uncomfortable. The Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, produced regular reports on public morale. These reports were discovered after the war, and they show that many ordinary Germans were aware of what was happening. Perhaps not all the details, but they knew. Letters from German soldiers on the Eastern Front, some discovered in the archives after the war, show that ordinary soldiers knew about the massacres being carried out. Some were disturbed, some rationalized, but they knew. Hannah Arendt, the German Jewish philosopher who had herself fled Germany, published her famous book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, in 1963. Adolf Eichmann was a Nazi bureaucrat responsible for the logistics of transporting Jews to the death camps. Arendt attended his trial and expected to find a monster. But Eichmann was an ordinary man, an administrative official who was simply doing his job. Arendt called this the banality of evil, the idea that the greatest crimes in history do not necessarily come from madmen and monsters, but from ordinary people who believed it was not their place to ask questions. In 1962, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted a famous experiment. Volunteers were told to administer electric shocks to people who gave wrong answers. The shocks were not real, but the volunteers did not know that. The result? 65% of volunteers continued to the highest level of shock, marked dangerous on the machine, simply because a person in a white coat told them to continue. This experiment carries a crucial lesson. Obedience to authority is a powerful human instinct, and when that instinct is combined with ideology and propaganda, the consequences can be catastrophic. Our third lesson: silence is sometimes complicity.
This is a lesson about protection, what keeps society safe. The fourth lesson from the documents: democratic institutions are the primary line of defense against authoritarianism. And when those institutions weaken, everything can collapse with startling speed. In Germany, one of the first things the Nazis did was take control of the judiciary. Judges who opposed them were dismissed. Those who remained learned what verdicts were expected of them. When the courts were no longer independent, the last barrier against absolute power fell. The press was the same. The first thing Hitler did was control the newspapers, not always through direct censorship, but through fear, through giving exclusive information to cooperative outlets, and through the economic strangulation of opposing publications. Courts, legislatures, the press, free elections, these are the institutions that keep democracy alive. And the documents of history show that the attack on these institutions is almost always the first step toward authoritarianism.
The fifth lesson concerns a deeply human trait, one that the Nazis exploited better than almost anyone in history: tribal thinking. Human beings are social creatures. We need belonging. We need to be part of a group. This is an evolutionary trait that helped us survive. But when this need for belonging is combined with fear, it can become dangerous. Look at the Nazi rallies. These were not simply political gatherings. They were powerful emotional experiences. Music, light, a massive crowd, everyone shouting together, moving together. This creates an overwhelming sense of belonging. And when that feeling of belonging is fused with the definition of an enemy, us against them, the result can be catastrophic. Neuroscience today tells us that when we feel a sense of group identity, the part of the brain responsible for empathy towards others shows reduced activity, particularly towards those defined as outside the group. This is a biological mechanism, and dictators throughout history, even without knowing this science, have exploited this mechanism. Our fifth lesson: whenever a political leader begins to define a group of citizens as an internal enemy, whenever they say, "Our problems are the fault of this particular ethnic, religious, or political group," this is a danger signal, one that history has confirmed repeatedly.
The sixth lesson is about memory, about why remembering matters. Today, the last survivors of the Holocaust are leaving us. Projects like the USC Shoah Foundation, established by Steven Spielberg after making Schindler's List, have worked to record these survivors' testimonies before they are lost. So far, more than 56,000 testimonies have been archived. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Nazi death camps, wrote Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl argues that even in the most extreme conditions, a human being retains the ability to choose how to respond to what fate has brought. That message is not only a psychological one, it is a political one. It tells us We have a choice. Germany today makes Holocaust education compulsory in all schools. German students visit memorials. They engage with the documents. This is not a collective punishment of later generations. It is a vaccine against forgetting. The philosopher George Santayana wrote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." He wrote that in the early 20th century, before World War II, as if he already knew what was coming.
And now, an honest question. What do these lessons say about the world today? Freedom House, an American non-governmental organization, publishes an annual Global Freedom Index. Their 2024 report shows that for the 18th consecutive year, the number of countries where freedoms declined was greater than the number where freedoms improved. A new wave of populism is rising across the world. Leaders who claim that only they speak for the real people, that independent institutions are enemies of the people, that independent media lies. This pattern is familiar. We have seen it in the historical documents. But one important clarification: making historical comparisons does not mean saying right now is exactly like Germany in 1933. History never repeats itself exactly. Every era has its own specific conditions, but patterns do repeat, and recognizing patterns is the first step toward preventing catastrophe. The good news is that humanity has learned. After World War II, institutions were built that had never existed before. The United Nations, the International Criminal Court, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the European Union, one of whose founding purposes was preventing war in Europe. These institutions are imperfect, but their existence is a meaningful difference.
And now I want to speak directly to those watching this video, especially to younger viewers. You live in an era where more information is available than at any other moment in human history. In seconds, you can access millions of documents, books, and articles. This is an enormous power, but with that power comes responsibility. The responsibility to check sources, to ask questions before believing, to recognize that when a leader or a media outlet claims, "Only we tell the truth and everyone else is lying," this is a warning sign, not a sign of trustworthiness. What does critical thinking actually mean? It means, before believing anything, asking, who is the source of this information? Does this information align with other sources? Does the person saying it have a specific interest? These are simple questions, but if ordinary Germans in the 1930s had used them more often, history might have been different. And one more thing. History is not only the story of dictators, it is also the story of those who resisted. Sophie Scholl, a German student who distributed anti-Nazi leaflets in 1943 and was executed for it, was 21 years old. Oskar Schindler, who saved 1,200 Jewish lives. The Danish people, who smuggled virtually their entire Jewish population to safety in Sweden. These people are also part of history.
Throughout this documentary, we have made a journey. From a young boy in Braunau, through the streets of Vienna and the trenches of the First World War. From Mein Kampf and the secret book that was never published. Through the nightly conversations he believed no one would hear. Through classified psychological reports. Through military meetings in a bunker. To the last will and testament dictated in the final hours. What have these documents told us? That Hitler was not some inexplicable supernatural figure. He was a human being, with a history, with fears, with ambitions, and with choices. This may be the most disturbing thing of all that we have learned from these documents.
because it means such a catastrophe can happen again under the right conditions. But it also means it can be prevented because human beings have choices. Societies have choices. You have a choice.
Every year on January 27th, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the world observes Holocaust Remembrance Day with two simple words: never again. Those two words are a promise, but a promise that requires work to keep, that requires awareness, that requires the courage to speak the truth, and that requires memory. Memory of which these documents are the guardians. The documents are still there, in Washington, in Moscow, in Berlin, in London, in Jerusalem. Researchers are still discovering things. There are still questions without complete answers, and there are still lessons we have yet to learn. If this documentary has made you curious, read more, ask more, look at the primary sources, engage directly with the documents. The links in the description of this video are a good place to start. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If this documentary was meaningful to you, share it. Not for the views, but because this story needs to be heard. Because history that is forgotten is history that repeats. In memory of 6 million Jewish lives and the millions and others lost in the Holocaust. Never again.